Very good evening to all the respected listeners. Today I just started a Genome series, which is from the latest 27th edition of Genome. Here, with the topic which I have taken is the concept of the G protein. You will get this in the intracellular communication concept and that part of the genome. I have tried to explain the physiology of the G protein given in the genome and also correlated it with cancer. So, first, let's know what is G protein. So G protein are the nucleotide regulatory proteins. So basically they are proteins, but they are linked to a nucleotide. And what this nucleotide is in this case, that is guanine. Guanine nucleotide binding proteins are the G proteins. So they are the nucleotide regulatory proteins. Obviously, if the word regulatory is being used, they are responsible for some regulation of the cellular functions, obviously. So one thing is there, they can be in two states, activated state and inactive state. So when they bind to GTP, sorry, guanosine triphosphate, like we have ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate. Similarly, we have GTP, that is guanosine triphosphate. So this nucleotide, when it is binding with GTP, they are happen to be in the activated state. So they will ask the cell to do that function for which they have been activated. So they are actually the mediators which are involved in the conversion of any chemical signal. Whatever signal is coming, the cell to cell signaling process is coming, that signal has to be converted into a particular biological effect inside the cells, or any change which is to be made in the biochemical reactions within the cells, any enzymatic activity, be it anything, all these changes can be made, and the mediators here are the G proteins. And what is their term and condition? They have to bind with a guanosine triphosphate, and therefore they are the nucleotide regulatory proteins. So when they are activated, whenever they are activated and whenever the signal reaches them, the G protein is exchanging GTP for GTP. Okay, GDP for GTP. And one thing, the GTP protein complex is actually the activated part, so it is bringing about the activated effects. Now, the guanine nucleotide binding proteins, that is G proteins, regulate the intracellular signaling by acting as molecular switches. Switch means switches in two condition, on and off. So they are in two condition, active and inactive. If they get activated after binding with GTP, they will cause that particular function to occur. If they will be inactivated by binding with GDP, they will they will switch off that particular function, and that's how they act as a regulatory protein. So they transmit signals from the cell surface receptors. Okay, so they are transmitting the signals from the cell surface receptors to the intracellular effector molecules. So then they are just initiating a cascade of and or bringing about a signal transduction mechanism, and that's how they are transmitting the signals from the cell surface receptors, which are acting as a recipient of the signal coming from the outside world of the cell. Now we'll see that the G proteins are active only when after binding with GTP, right? And they have got an inherent GTPase activity. What is GTPase activity? They have a enzymatic activity of causing the hydrolysis of guanosine triphosphate. So they convert GTP to GDP. So they're restoring the G protein to an inactive state, right? So if they're hydrolyzing GDP because of the GTPase activity, now they have only GDP. So when they're combined with GDP, they are asked to be in an inactive or a resting state. Now, when we have to think about the structure of G protein, structure of the G protein, it is basically protein, so it is a polypeptide chain. So when it is consisting of a single polypeptide chain, it is the small G protein, it is a monomeric GTPase, and when it consists of three subunits, it is considered to be, and all the three peptide chains are different from each other in structure, so they are heterotrimeric G proteins. So basically there are two principal groups which are involved in cell signaling and which comes under the domain of G protein: the small G proteins, which are the monomeric GTPase, and heterotrimeric G proteins. So in this section, in today's video, we'll pay most emphasis. I think the most important family, which is rather not given in so much detail in the literature, that is the small G proteins, which are the monomeric GTPases, as they have a very sound correlation with the cancer. Now, other groups which are coming under this category of G protein, again, they are causing the regulation, they are acting as a molecular switches, and again, they are very important for the cell physiology. We have the elongation factors, dynamin, and translocation GTPases. So, these are also coming under the domain of G protein. Now, you know that small G proteins are monomeric GTPases because they have inherent GTPase activity. So, they will also exist in active state and inactive state. So, when they will bind with inactive state, you know that GTPase, that is a GTP activating protein, GAP, will inactivate the small G protein because it will encourage the hydrolysis of GTP to GDP in the central binding site, right? While this is the activity of the GTP activating protein, the GAPs. And if we talk about the guanine exchange factors, GEPs, they are activating the small g proteins by encouraging the exchange of GDP to GTP in the active site. So that's how the molecular switches are getting activated and inactivated depending upon whether GDP is combined with them or GTP is combined with them, and is mediated by certain gaps and gaps, like if they are GTP activating proteins and guanine exchange factors, that is your mediating the molecular switches. Now, some small G proteins contain the lipid modification also that helps to anchor them to the membrane, and other are freely to diffuse throughout the cytosol. So some amount of G proteins are only attached to the cell membrane because cell membrane is a lipid bilayer. So lipid dissolves lipid, so they undergo a lipid modification and they just anchor to the membrane, while some of the and other G proteins are diffusing throughout the cytosol. Small G proteins, as you know, they have many cellular functions, and very importantly, they are responsible in the development of cancer, the mutations in the gene encoding these small G proteins. So as you can see, these small GTP binding proteins, they have certain families. Okay, families means the family of that particular GTP proteins which are encoded by the same chromosome. So, or the gene in the same chromosome. So there are three superfamilies: RAB, Rho, and RAC families. This consists of a single polypeptide function as a molecular switches by cycling between GTP bound inactive and GTP bound active state. I think this point is clear. Now the RAB family. What do you understand by RAB? This RAB is a RAS related protein in the brain. Therefore, it is B is there. RAS related, RA from RAS and B from brain. This protein is found in the brain and it is RAS related. And what is the main function? It regulates the intracellular vesicular transport, which we also call as vesicular trafficking. Okay, and we know that for the vesicular trafficking, there is two important processes which are going on, that is endocytosis and exocytosis, and that is an important function, and it was first identified in the brain tissue. Therefore, this superfamily or whatever small G protein comes under this are considered to be the family or are considered to be the G proteins belonging to RAB family. Now, the term I used here is RAS related protein. What is RAS? RAS is a proto-oncogene. Well, RAS is a name that comes from the rat sarcoma virus. Okay, so it was first seen in that rat sarcoma virus in which this oncogene was first discovered. Means the virus that is inducing sarcoma in a rat, right? So from RA is from rat and sarcoma S. This particular, because it was first isolated in a rat and it was actually the oncogene, the gene responsible for the tumor formation. So main function is, obviously its main function is cell growth and proliferation, because we know that cancer is uncontrolled cell growth and proliferation. So the RAS, which is acting as a proto-oncogene and which undergoes mutation and is actually responsible for the development of the tumor or cancer, is actually the culprit. Now the RAS protein is always located in the inner surface of the plasma membrane. I told you that some of the small G proteins, they undergo lipid modification and they are anchoring themselves to the cell membrane. So this RAS proteins are attached to the inner leaflet of the plasma membrane by undergoing a lipid modification. What kind of lipid modification is there? Prenylation, and for some isoforms, palmitoylation. That is again a molecular basis of lipid modification. The lipid modification reaction, how they undergo a changes. They undergo in the they are actually existing in the isoforms. Now these are synthesized in cytosol, of course, and before being processed and targeted to the plasma protein. So first they are synthesized in within the cytoplasm, and then they are transported to the plasma membrane, where they undergo the lipid modification and get themselves attached to the inner surface of the plasma membrane. So they actually mediates the processing between the outer of the cell and inside of the cell. Now RS protein is again, it is encoded by the RAS proto-oncogene. Proto-oncogene means if there is mutation occurring in the proto-oncogene, it will result in oncogenesis or tumor formation. It will become an oncogene. Now, it encodes a small GTP binding protein, GTPases, which are involved, of course, in cell growth and proliferation. This I've told you. Now, why the RAS is located in plasma membrane? Because RAS receives the signals from the activated receptors, tyrosine kinase, okay, RTKs. What can be the example of this tyrosine kinase receptors? This is the endothelial growth factor receptor, then platelet derived growth factor receptor, and insulin receptor. They are all tyrosine kinase, the activated receptors, and the receptor activation is formed because of the activity of tyrosine kinase. Now, after this RTK is activated, what do you understand by RTK? That's the receptor which has a tyrosine kinase activity. So, whenever this receptor with EGF, PDGF, or insulin receptor. So insulin receptor will get activated whenever insulin will bind to it, right? So endothelial growth factor, epidermal growth factor, they will be activated when these particular growth factors will bind these receptors. Platelet derived growth factor also. So RAS exchanges GDP for GTP, and once this RTK is activated, of course, and then GTP bind with the small g protein, so it comes out to be in an active state. And because it is now active, what it will do, it will trigger a particular signaling that we call as MAPK. Okay, that is the MAPK signaling, and that signaling results in gene expression promoting cell growth, proliferation, differentiation, and cell survival. So it transduces signals from the receptor tyrosine kinases to MAPK pathway, which is an intracellular pathway which is responsible for the normal cell growth, proliferation, and differentiation. After that, what it should happen that due to the inherent GTPase activity, it should be taking GDP instead of GTP, and it should switch off. But if there is some mutation in RAS gene, especially there is three types of RAS gene, HRAS, KRAS, and NRAS, it will keep RAS in the GTP bound active state. Okay, and it will cause the uncontrolled cell division. So, what is the clinical importance? We come to the clinical importance. With the mutation in RAS gene, H, RAS, K, RAS, and N, it keeps the RAS in the GTP bound active state, which is causing the uncontrolled cell proliferation. Now, out of these three, HRAS, KRAS, and NRAS, KRAS mutation is the most common oncogenic mutation, and it is responsible for the most dreadful cancer, which a very worst prognosis: pancreatic carcinoma, colorectal carcinoma, and lung adenocarcinoma. All these three are most life threatening cancers, and they are mostly incurable and maximum cause of death mortality. So KRAS mutation is the most common oncogenic mutation among the RAS genes, and the three major human RAS genes, as I told you, HRAS. HRAS is from the Harvey-Red sarcoma viral oncogene. Okay, so of course it was discovered in that virus that how it produces oncogenesis, and it is encoded in the chromosome 11p15.5. Similarly, KRS is what? Kirsten-Rat sarcoma viral oncogene, chromosome 12p12.1. Most commonly mutated RAS gene in human cancer, that is KRAS. Now, NRAS is a neuroblastoma RAS viral oncogene coded in chromosome 1p13.2. So we know that there are P segments and Q segments in a chromosome. So this is particularly localizing that particular gene, this particular part of the chromosome, which is encoding this particular RAS gene. So I already told you KRAS mutation is responsible for the development of pancreatic, colorectal, and lung adenocarcinoma. And NRAS is responsible for the neuroblastoma, is responsible for the melanoma and hematological malignancies like leukemia. And HRAS is what? It is responsible for bladder, thyroid, head and neck cancers. Like head and neck cancers means what? Oral cancers, which are actually nicotine mediated. Now, mutation of HRAS, KRAS, or NRAS converts the proto-oncogene to an oncogene, resulting in constitutive activation of again that RAF MEK EPK pathway, which is resulting in controlled cell division. Now, if you see a high yield summary, there is RAS, which is full form is rat sarcoma, responsible. The main function is cell growth and proliferation. RAB, which is RAS related protein in brain, and it is responsible for the vesicle trafficking involving endocytosis and exocytosis. Then we have Rho, RAS related C3 botulinum toxin substrate, and is responsible for the cell migration and lamellopodia. RAN is what? It is a RAS related nuclear protein which is responsible for nuclear transport, and ARF is the ADP ribosylation factor which is responsible for the vesicular formation and trafficking. So in total, you can see various cellular functions are being influenced by this family of protein, and these are all are small g proteins. So mnemonic for the RAS superfamily is what? RAS runs rapid routes around nucleus. So RAS is for growth, RAB is for the vesicle routing, Rho is for cytoskeleton, RAN is for nuclear transport, and ARF is for the vesicle formation. Now you know the members of the RAB family regulates the rate of the vesicle traffic between the endoplasmic reticulum, the Golgi apparatus, lysosomes, endosomes, and the cell membrane. Another family of the small GTP binding protein is Rho and RAC family, that is mediating the interaction with the cytoskeleton and cell membrane. So RAS family regulates the growth by transmitting signals from RAS signals from cell membrane to the nucleus. Now we come to the most interesting part. What can we do with this knowledge? Targeting RAS, this particular gene, which is a proto-oncogene, and which results in the production of an oncogene, is one of the biggest strategies in the modern cancer therapy. But it cannot eradicate all the cancers. What could be the reason? Because cancer is caused by accumulation of multiple genetic and epigenetic changes, not just RAS mutation. Genetic is what? At the level of gene. But what is epigenetic? Because of the environmental influence, whatever changes is taking place in the genetic makeup, that is leading to the RAS mutation. And along with RAS mutation, these all factors are also involved. So even with RAS mutant cancers, tumor often develops the drug resistance. So cancer cells usually harbor mutations in multiple genes. So these are all examples of the genes in which altogether they can harbor mutations. So targeting RAS alone is often insufficient. Now the next part that we are going to focus is researchers are actively working on several approaches like direct RAS inhibition, okay, where a specific mutant is targeted by the drug, especially if you see from KRAS, it is targeted by drugs. It shrinks the tumor in patients with lung cancers only with specific mutation. Then you can also block the downstream signaling, that is the MEPK pathway that is responsible for the cell proliferation. Then you can use a combination therapy, RAS pathway inhibitor, immunotherapy, chemotherapy, or targeted drugs, gene editing and RNA-based therapy, experimental approaches using CRISPR or RNA interference aim to selectively silence or correct the mutant RAS gene. Now they remain largely in the research and clinical trials. So we are basically, this thing is there that if you actually want to research about this, you should know that there is involvement of RAS gene, and what it is a small g protein. Now there is no universal strategy to eradicate the cancer, but the personalized mRNA based cancer vaccines are most important areas of research in oncology. Historically, if you see, Nobel Prize have recognized landmarks cancer-related discoveries. In the year 2008, Harald zur Husson, he discovered HPV causes cervical cancer, leading to HPV vaccines. So they were awarded the Nobel Prize. In 2018, James P. Allison and Tasuku Honjo for discovering the immune checkpoint therapy, which just transformed the cancer treatment. So we hope for a discovery of exceptional importance, a truly universal cancer vaccine or another treatment that could reliably eradicate many different cancers. Now, what is the research opportunity that we all should know? There is a substantial ongoing research in integrating pharmacogenetics with artificial intelligence, tumor genomics, and immunotherapy to design a highly personalized cancer treatment. So, there is a promising field that could contribute to major advances in cancer care, although it is not currently a universal cure. So, hoping for a universal cure of cancer, I would like to end the video. Thank you so much for watching it.